Mr. Bianchi, how are you? What have you been up to?
I am fantastic. I've had my head down producing this incredible new show called Razor.
I'm glad you said that because it was a load of questions. Like, how are you? What have you been up to? And you said, oh, not much. I've been on holiday. We would have a very different conversation. So how's it going? Give us an update. What's been happening since last time we saw you? Because you have been head down. You made a brief appearance in a gala film, very briefly, to do with open mic. I know that you've had tacos with Taco, but beyond that, what else has been going on? How did filming go? We've obviously been tracking some of the things that you've been posting on social, but overall, what are the news bulletins?
Well, I guess today we're in April 2023. It has been a whirlwind, but I have to remind the Web3 audience that it's been under a year since we actually met and decided to go into this venture together, and in a matter of 9.5 months, we have gone from developing, writing a script, pre-production, production in Hollywood.
When you
And
put it like
now,
that, it sounds like a lot of work.
and now I know, right? And now we're in post-production. We've already started and gotten some of our visual effects shots back. We just announced an incredible cast of Hollywood legends and veterans. Should I say their names, or do you want to say their names?
No, we're going to go into that next.
Okay,
Carry
cool.
on
So we'll
with
keep that
yeah, yeah,
quiet.
yeah. But
So we'll
but
keep
you
that
can
quiet.
say you need to say the names. They're your team. Goodness, that's how it works.
Look, it's been an incredible amount of work, but it has been an absolute dream come true, because when you're building, it doesn't feel like work; it's just purpose. And
Yeah.
we are so excited to launch Gala Film's first live action series on Gala Film, and it's called Razor, and it's absolutely stunning. It's just
How do you and I know it's different, this is a really difficult question to answer honestly because this is your baby, right? But is it was it harder than you thought to do? What's the result? Is it what you wanted? Is it more than you wanted? Is it different to what you wanted but you're happy with it? How do you feel now that you're in that sort of post-production phase and you're really digging into the footage and obviously wrestling with some of the content?
Oh, that's a great question. When it comes to filmmaking, nothing in filmmaking is easy. Whether you're making a $500 short or a $50 million feature, the mechanics of filmmaking don't really change. The anatomy of a scene doesn't really change, but the toys get bigger and the teams get bigger, and managing those things gets more complicated. I will say that this is probably one of the hardest things that I've ever done, in terms of the mechanics of how we did these things. But the beautiful thing about it is that the subject matter is compelling and will speak to Web3, but the quality of the footage and the performance and the writing and the art direction and the production design is stunning. It supersedes what I thought we were going to create. And when it comes to creating this stuff, it's like you go into it believing in your head what you want it to be, and it ends up becoming what it was supposed to be.
Yeah, that's a lovely expression. I'm gonna steal that one. And you talk about the performances, and we've mentioned you've done some cast announcements, right? And they were pretty big, and we didn't leak them. We were really proud of ourselves. Like we've obviously known for a long time, these things take work to pull off, right? They don't just happen overnight. So give us the names that people may know that are now officially involved in the film.
Sure. I'm very excited to announce. I'll start with, if you guys watch HBO's Barry, you would probably know Mr. Christopher Marquette, who got his start on Broadway when he was 12 years old. He's playing the
Oh,
role of Octi. We have Mimi Davila, who's playing the role of Zelsi. She is stunning and incredible. And then, of course, you've heard of primetime Emmy nominee Richard Cabral, from American Crime and also from Mayans MC, playing Villa. If you like Mayans, then you've heard of a guy named Emilio Rivera, who's playing Felix de la Cruz. And if you like Latinos, you have absolutely heard of Machete, And so we got Danny Trejo playing Manolo, and I am beyond, like, still to this moment, it's just so humbling to think about it. We have in the role of Detective Thompson, legendary American iconic actress, BAFTA nominee and SAG Award winner, Mena Suvari, who you all know from so many great films, including American Beauty. Just to bring this ensemble of actors together, as an actor myself, and I'm playing the title role of Grim, as an actor myself, but also as a filmmaker, has really been a dream come true, because some of these folks I've worked with before, and some of them I have admired from afar as a fan for decades. And the fact that Gala Film has created the incubator to bring all these people together to create this incredible world, and, you know, subtly infuse them into the Web3 world is something that you couldn't have bet the farm that we will be doing this. April 2020. Here we are.
Never bet the farm, David. That's not what you want to do. No, it is a phenomenal thing that you've achieved, and I think what I personally love about it is that it's the disrespect for what's expected and what's accepted. And I love that, because it shows that, yeah, it's harder and yeah, it's riskier, but there's always a new way to do things. And people are just people. And to be able to give them the opportunity to work together and, you know, share their talents and do something that's truly exciting with a production like yours, is a really cool thing to be able to do. So I say a production like yours because we were having a little bit of a cheeky chat earlier about some of the aspirations you have to make it feel like a different level of production. So whilst it's Web3 in one way, you know, we talk, you know, about bringing people on the journey and you know, through the shoots, obviously you shared a lot. But even when you actually come and we're streaming this thing, we want to make it Web3 in a whole new way, don't we? So that it's actually, you're not talking about Web3, but you're talking about this really cool connected experience that you're sort of diving into as a viewer, that it doesn't really matter how it happens. It's just the fact that it's happening that's exciting. Do you want to just talk for a little minute on that and some of the ideas that are rolling around? We love a leak, but rolling around your head, some of the formats you've been playing with, anything like that, anything juicy that you can share with the crew?
Well, I think that, this is stepping out, filmmaking and Web3. And one of our biggest things, and I have to really just applaud you, Bucks, for being such a legend and a leader in this space, and really just standing by your convictions and saying, no, this is a creator economy and we trust the artists. And you guys really, really put a lot of trust in me as an artist, and you gave me the creative latitude to create the world that was on the page without without any degree of micromanagement. Like you just let us run free. And I think because of that, we were able to be nimble and move quickly. And so thank you for that. We have so much content. We have so much content and we want to interact with the audience. And so we have so much behind this. We have literally like 10 terabytes of behind the scenes footage. Countless amounts of stills of cast and of crew and little leaky innuendos. We are actually going to be burying Easter eggs in the episodes. So when you watch these episodes, you'll be able to interact with moments within the episode that will take you over to different digital collectibles and give you access to things that, you know, if you catch that 48 frames, you might catch that little moment that will take you to the next place.
Yeah. This is when it makes, like, people didn't get this. They're like, but you're Gala Games, what are you doing? And I'm like, well, you know what games are, right? They're stories and experiences and interactive moments, and they're fun. Like, why do you not see that as a form of entertainment that should be cherished and brought across into film? And everything you just said, like, Easter eggs in film and like some of the fidelity. I was looking on Twitter, I think probably yesterday actually, and there's a new UE5 game mode that's being shown around insane. Of like, and you genuinely think, don't you, that it's somebody actually filming in real life, and it's incredible. And it's like these worlds are converging, and we always thought that games would pull in film, and they have to an extent, right, with characters and stuff like that, but film can throw some punches here, because the production timeline for film, like you said, we met less than a year ago at VCon, less than a year ago, and the quality I've seen, which I haven't leaked, I've been so good, but the stuff I've seen coming out from what you guys are doing is insane. So if, you know, and that's a 9-month time frame, not a 5-year project, right? So I think there's a really exciting thing here that we're tapping into, and I'm delighted. Talking about Easter eggs and films. Yes, please.
I think that the sky's the limit. I'll give you guys to the audience right behind me. This is Grimm's Warehouse right behind me. So you're getting a glimpse into the world of RZR. And, you know, we are going to be able to raise the bar, because I fundamentally believe that not only is Gala one of the most important, you know, companies in Web3, I just think at a global level, when we release Gala Film, we are going to raise the bar above the existing streaming mechanisms. Like, how are we taking streaming and viewership to a whole new level, engagement through viewership to a whole new level, where when the Web 2 minded people, the normies, actually tap into Gala Film, they're going to be like, this is badass. This is not what we're this is not what we're used to. And I
say things like badass, because I can't say it with a British accent. Badass doesn't really work at all. But yeah, talking about your phrase, we have to do an introduction to Mina. So otherwise Hutch will get stroppy with us. So before we cut to the interview with Mina, what was it like to work with her? What were your hopes for working with her? What did you expect she would add to the production and add to the set and add to the crew? And were you surprised? Were you absolutely like spot on in what she would bring? What was the feelings that you had around her and her role?
So that anybody in the audience knows loosely how these things work. When you're in the casting process and you're going after, or you're approaching some really high caliber talent, you know, you approach through casting, you go to the representation looks at a snapshot of the deal, and then so on and so forth. And then the talent reads the script, right? And so for me, it was just like, I just hope that she gravitated to the material. And then we got the call that she loved the material and she wanted to be a part of this. And I was just like, I was over the moon. I was like, what? Like, is this real? I'm like, I'm pinching myself. I'm looking around. I thought someone was chasing me. You know? And so when she said she wanted to do it, then it's like, oh, so we go through the process of closing the paperwork and getting all the deal points set up and everything. And then at that point, then it dawns on you like, okay, we are shooting this under a really aggressive schedule. Then you just have to hope that the human being matches the icon that has been persisting in Hollywood. And because, you know, some talent is not always, you know, some people are different than others and so on and so forth. But I can tell you, Mena Suvari is an angel. Like, she is such a team player. She was interested in knowing everyone's name. She was always on time, always greeted with a smile. She didn't want to, you know, she was always so considerate of not just other actors, but also the crew. And we went into backstory. We wrote a 2.5-page backstory on her character. And
nice.
we spoke for hours on her character and the nuances and what she was saying and why she was saying it. And so detail oriented with the wardrobe and making sure that even things like her posture and her mannerisms, her delivery, and we were so succinct. And honestly, like, as a producer and as an actor, she was a dream come true. Just, you know, knew every mark, every line, down to the punctuation, and didn't want to deviate unless we felt it was appropriate. And you just can't ask for more. I mean, literally, like, I've
you
worked with so many actors.
It's karma, right? When you're doing something good, you attract good people, I guess. So that's great it's really good to hear that. Because I think, and I think from you as well, you spent so much time talking with our community. You spend a lot of time in Discord, which we all really appreciate. And I know you are a massive team player, no question. So it's lovely to hear your feedback on someone like that, because I know it's authentic. I know with you, we wouldn't have probably even broached this question to put you in a position where you had to, you know, say something you didn't feel. And as with you always, David, like it's just off the cuff. It's completely authentic. And it's lovely to hear that you've got these Hollywood actors that are coming into this new, exciting creative space, and they're going to make it even more exciting, right? That's what they're going to do, because they're going to shift the perception, because you can't ignore it. Like, it's happening. It's real. I know people are thinking about.
It is real. And I wanted to also just say, like, you know, me and Mina, we were sharing score. We were texting music back and forth to each other, just like establishing the tone before we even met. And she's just such a gem. And, you know, look, we are so lucky to have her, because Detective Thompson is a real antagonist for season 2.
Oh, that's a leak. That's a leak.
So she's a real antagonist. And
that's good. That's good.
And her and Grimm actually never play in the same scene together, even though they're at odds all the way through. That's a leap.
Yeah, nice. I love the cat and mouse stories. It's some of the stuff that they're caught stealing we're playing with as well. I love all of that. Okay, so we're on time, and this is your show, my friend. And you were the one that did the casting, and you were the one that brought this team together. So I think it's only fair that you do the cut over to I think it's called a bridge, to the interview. Would you like to introduce your castmate?
Yes, I would. Ladies and gentlemen, my name is David Bianchi, and I'm so honored to be the creator and co-writer and executive producer, also playing the title role of Grimm and Razor. And it is my absolute pleasure to introduce the one and only Detective Thompson, the legendary Mena Suvari.
Hello, Mina. How are you doing?
I'm wonderful. Thank you for having me.
It's lovely to have you here. You won't know this, but you just had a bridge over to you and this interview from a certain member of the crew that you've been working with, Mr. David Bianchi, and he said some lovely things. So you don't need to be nervous about the introduction. It was pretty epic, to be honest.
So nice. I absolutely adore him. I like to refer to it as my film family, my film fam. So he's definitely become film fam. But I was only nervous in the sense, you talking to him before me, because I just feel like I could talk to him forever and still have so much to learn about like technology and the universe in general. So, I just felt like that was a big part of, my process on, in working with everyone and playing this role is, always trying to understand, this time and place of this new world, that we're in. So, yeah. He's a tough act to follow in that sense. I'm not gonna do it. But
I won't quiz you too much on layer 1 blockchains and the benefits and various different ones that are out there. What's interesting though, however, is and this is the conversation we have quite a lot, is that it's not rocket science, right? And I think it's really just the invisible thing under the surface that hopefully will allow us to do some incredibly creative and exciting new things on the top. And I think the average viewer doesn't care at all. Like when you listen to a song, you don't say you're listening to an MP3, right? Like you don't quote file formats, it's irrelevant. So I'm hoping that with this film or the series that you guys are doing, it doesn't matter what the technology was, it's just becoming really, really exciting, right? So in terms of the creative format. So, but I'm glad he gave you a little bit of a whirlwind tour of Web3 and technology, and AI is clearly the hot topic at the moment. That's for sure. Are you okay? Have you...
I just put you on mute because there was a truck coming by. But I'm listening.
I know, it's great. It's great. I'm so used to remote work that when my cat's screaming or something's happening or the doorbell's going, you're like, I'm just going to mute and move things around. So we'll just roll with it. It's fine.
The video from beeps. They're the beeps.
You should pretend you're swearing and then just let the beat kind of roll with it. That would be good. It's so beeping awesome.
Geez, that Mina, she's so hard to interview. I can never get anything. No, I agree. I mean, I think that one of the things that I loved about this was not only like this, you know, exciting new like appreciation for, like you said, AI, right? But I guess, not that I, you know, have a dark mind, but like, I guess the idea that this is not just so, not overly complicated, but like that it's so possible and so real, especially like, it just was kind of meta, you know, like reading this script and thinking about like the state of world affairs, and just, you know, I've been in Los Angeles since 1994, and just seeing
you live in a crazy town.
How life has unfolded, how technology has unfolded. And so, you know, there was always that element for me of, you know, like, wow, this feels so real, so tangible in a sense. Like, is this something that we soon will be experiencing? I remember, and I don't know like the specifics around it, but that moment where there was a woman who had like a chip injected into her wrist, and it was to help her scan through, like to get to her work a lot quicker. And it was just, because again, I feel like I sort of like half live in a bubble. I'm not like at these tech cons, you know, but that was something that it just kind of shook me, you know, and now reading about, you know, in this story, we have, you know, one of the biggest elements around all of this is the acumen, you know, and how real is this? How possible is this, you know? So it was a lot of like, it wasn't just like an awesome role to get to take on and really play with. It was like really awesome to also have this experience of like living in this world and like working within these dynamics that just felt so real at any moment.
It's fascinating hearing you talk about that, because it's one of the things that I picked up on as well when it was an idea really when I saw it, because I totally agree with you. It's far away from reality, but not really. It's a very interesting interplay of, and even with the huge AI debates we're having right now, right? It can be incredibly good. I mean, I read a stat the other day that 85% of people are using AI on a daily basis, and less than 30% of people realize it. And even stuff like that, it's permeating, and we're just not really aware of the power of it. And that's one thing David said about you as well. I mean, he said lots of nice things about you. You'll have to watch the interview. But he said about how much research you did and how you really wanted to get into the character. And I found that fascinating because, you know, and I've never pretended to know loads about the industry at all. And so I'm not going to start now. But like, you wrote sort of 2.5 pages or something of sort of backstory of this character. And he was sort of talking about how that affected everything from the way you move to your enunciation. How important is it for you? And I know this is probably a really dumb question, but how immersed in a character does someone like you, who's used to acting different characters, really have to go to be able to pull it off? Like, what goes into that?
I mean, it's really case specific, but I love the collaborative effort, and I love communicating about everything. So I don't know. I'm very Aquarian. That's just how my mind works. I always just want to know why and, you know, what and more. And so I like to have those discussions. It just really helps me have that kind of foundation. And what was it about the character itself? Like, because Thompson's a big character in the story, but never is shown with Grimm in actual fact. I don't think you ever share a scene, do you? But like, what attracted you to that character? And what I loved so much about her is there were so many like interesting dynamics. I mean, I felt I'm always like sort of touched or like flattered or impressed in a way when someone sends me material, because it's interesting for me to experience like how they see me, right? And so it was a little surprising. I was like, oh wow, you know, this is a really neat role. It's very different for me. But Yeah, I mean, I have to understand as much of my backstory, my past, my world, my environment that I'm living in, you know, as much as possible, because that just helps me navigate. And I don't know, I love to know about, you know, as much as my character has, like, in connection with all of the other characters. But what I was going to say is, I think that, like, one of the things that I loved about her is it's not just like the physical dynamic. I thought it was interesting the way that they cast someone like me, who is, like, if you pull back, it was interesting to me because I'm sort of like in control of all of this strength and like manpower. And I loved also how it's all about her intelligence, her wits. Like, she doesn't, so that was really cool to me. And it was something that I sort of like, just like naturally unfolded. I think that understanding, you know, of like getting into David's mind. And I just thought that was really neat. I thought that it added like a really different, cool element to it, because, and we would talk about that many times throughout different moments or different, you know, scenes, like, you know, how is she going to react, like all of those nuances. And it was always like a decision made, which I thought was really unique and powerful, was that, you know, she didn't have to use that brawn. She didn't have to show that side of herself. That's how dark she is. You know, that's how powerful she is. And so, yeah, that was really, really fun to play with. But I needed to have as much understanding or connection to that world as possible in order to be able to do that.
It's so exciting to hear, and I love it when you talk about how dark the character is, because I just hear, you know, this complex sort of character that we're going to see unfold on the screen, and I think that's incredibly exciting. And was that, I guess, the reason, like you said, it's not a role that you would, or a character rather, that you would naturally maybe associate with yourself? Maybe you would, but somebody else would necessarily associate with you. Was that more challenging? Was that just a different challenge? Was it more fun, more work? Like, what was your, or do you have sort of a standard approach?
No, I enjoy all of it. I mean, unless it's something that I absolutely feel like no connection to, then I will say. I mean, there have been times where I've experienced, like, I cannot wrap my head around this. I would not cast myself. Like, if, you know, I'm like, you know, but other than that, that's always like part of the fun for me, because I get to discover like something new about myself. Like, that's such a gift in a way. I get to really, I don't know, that's just where I'm at, like, at this stage in my life. It's fun and I enjoy it. I get to meet someone like David and hear his vision and get to hear how he thought of someone like me for that. And that's really cool.
Yeah, that's
really
cool.
unique, because I think that I would assume that's something that a lot of people talk about, or something that actors might, you know, be concerned about, you know, like being typecast, being thought of like for the same thing over and over, right? We want to challenge ourselves. And so that's really exciting for me. I mean, that was just initially to be thought of for Detective Thompson. And then just the more I got into it, I mean, it's just, I don't know. I'm always just trying to like live in the gratitude and find the blessings of it. And it's just so cool to me too, because I just think about this world, like, who's really good or bad? Like, who is the right one? Like, and that's what's so interesting to me too, about this world and about Grimm versus Detective Thompson, you know, like, I don't know if she's 50% evil. And I don't know if I 150% trust him either, you know? And so it's like, it's a testament to David and this world that he created, and these really complex characters and a really complex network of how they interact. It's really, really cool and interesting. And it's something that's like, it's something that I'd never really seen before. Like, you know, when we think of like sci-fi, right? Or we think of the future, and it was, I don't know, it was just like a combination of like so many different elements. that made it really special.
Yeah, and I love the way you're talking about the complexity of the character, that they might not be all bad or all good. And some of the best characters I think I've sort of really become sort of emotionally attached to over a period of time. And this is obviously, this is a decent, there's a number of episodes to this first series, are the ones that they're bad, but you realize they're not all bad, or how did they become bad, or how did they become so cynical or so judgmental? And they're the characters that I think are so intriguing that they've got longevity. If you were going to describe Thompson, Detective Thompson, how would you describe them? I mean, I'm not talking like on a dating site, but just in general, like how would you describe what she's like and what's driving her, and what kind of makes her angry or sort of makes her want to pursue the career that she is, and to have and to get the power that she's got? Can you give a bit of insight into that?
Yeah, I mean, I think David and I talked about how I think early on Detective Thompson learned within her own like family dynamic and with her own experiences in the world that, the system will serve those, that serve themselves. And I see Detective Thompson as someone who is a fighter, someone who is, I think both she and Grimm are highly intelligent, and they are highly intelligent in specific ways that work to their advantage, like within their own careers. And so that's why they're, it's sort of like they're their own equal, right, on each side.
Yeah,
and so
well matched.
He's basically representing everything that I want removed from this world. It's too much of a threat to me. And I want control over what he's developed and what he has control over. And I basically, I mean, I don't know how much I can give away, but, there's a secret society called Secreto within this world. And my character has heard of it, through her own, internal organization, hearings, from privy to these like conversations. She's been also, it's been mentioned to her through her captain, and she wants in. And so
okay.
She basically comes up with the idea to take out Grimm and to take over the grid zone in order to, get acceptance into the secret society. So she'll stop at nothing. She basically wants full control. And he's the one that keeps messing things up. And he's the one that's in her way, stopping her from doing it. Yeah. But, it's again,
I can't wait for this to come out.
Intentions and what we're going to do with this stuff, right?
Mm. No, absolutely. It's a definitely down the rabbit hole type of adventure, isn't it, this one? And talking about adventures, that was a seamless link there. So this adventure is with Gala Film. And I don't know how much, we're obviously not the people in the foreground. We're absolutely in the background. We're the platform that is trying to make sure that life is a little bit easier for creators. It's a little bit more transparent. There's a lot more creator control and freedom associated with that as well. Loaded question alert. Did it feel any different working on this production in terms of, and it's actually okay if it didn't, but in terms of speed, quality, the talent, like what was your sort of feeling when you were on set for that time with the guys and going through this sort of process that you all do?
Yeah, I mean, I've worked on so many different types of productions, and this didn't really feel like unique in that sense. I mean, yes, you could say that we were on a limited budget, but I mean, the amount of talent, our crew, phenomenal crew, incredible directors that we had come in, it didn't feel like that. It felt extremely cinematic. The only thing that was like different for me to experience, and I thought was really awesome, and I know that this is like what Gala takes a lot of pride in doing, is the involvement with the audience too. And so I thought that was really neat. When they were casting for RZR, RZR, you know, holding, you know, auditions for, you know, general audience member to actually like win that role or have a, you know, a say into how a storyline, you know, might turn out. And that kind of involvement I had never really experienced before. And I thought it was a really wonderful and new, exciting dynamic. Because, you know, that's, again, it's a collaborative effort, and that's what it's about. You know, everybody working together to make this art and experience this art together. So, I mean, but other than that, it didn't feel like anything extremely unusual. I mean, it was which
is so funny because it's a massive win for us. Sort of,
I guess another thing that, you know, but this is something that happens all the time, is you could kind of come in and maybe you're shooting like this moment from this episode and then you're going into this episode, you know, but that's very commonplace. And if anything, it felt like a really big, awesome, fun, you know, cinematic production.
And saying you go from one scene to another, I'm fascinated by this, and then I promise I'll wrap it up. I know I've taken time, but because your mood, I mean, as a character, is your mood pretty consistent? I mean, you say that, you know, she's a fighter, she wants power, she's got, you know, this huge amount of capability around her and within her. But how's she got sort of this sort of big emotional range, so therefore it becomes quite difficult, you go from one scene to another? Or is that just something as a tried and tested actor that you're just so used to, you can go from being one sort of state and then 2 minutes later you're in a different scene? And like, how does that work? Like, schizophrenic.
Well, very nice. Part of that works because they tell you to do it. Because they're like, this is how you call sheet, and this is what we're doing for the day. And if you don't know, it's off. You know? So that's part of my job, to be like, oh, okay, cool. Like, I'm going to be here. And
I'm here.
But it's also, I mean, I think of, like, you know, when you say that, I think of David. Like, there were many times if I was lost, like, I would find him. And I know that he probably felt like I was overstepping like the director's shoes at some moments, but it's okay, because we're all friends, we're all family. But I would ask him, I'd be like, look, I mean, do you think like maybe there was something that was specifically written about her? And to be completely honest, because it is a collaborative effort, like maybe, you know, one person thought that because, you know, XYZ was written there that, you know, we should follow that. But because of everything that we'd already talked about and developed and discovered, you know, we would change that. And so it could be something very small, but it could be a very big emotional jump for me to have to work through. And so many times I would like pull him aside and, you know, like, is this something that, like, would she have no expression to this? I mean, I really tried to dissect her a lot because, I mean, yeah, I don't think anybody is just like, you know, two-dimensional. You know, I wanted to find that past within her. I didn't want her to just be like, you know, so cold and heartless and, you know, lacking the remorse, that she's just got this like one, you know, one agenda. I wanted her to like be able to show that humanity at any time. And so I would always try to find that with David.
Okay. My last question is the most loaded one yet. And I don't think it's on the sheet, which means I'm going to get in trouble with Hutch and maybe some other people, I don't know. Is there, but you don't have to answer it, is my caveat. Is there a future for Detective Thompson? Do you think, is there a future just in general?
I mean, I actually don't know the answer to this. I would love for there to be a future because, and David knows this, like, and this is what I mean. I mean, I like, and I don't know what that says about me, but I enjoyed this character like a lot. It's just a lot of fun. I don't know, maybe because I grew up with 3 older brothers. I grew up with that sense of like, you know, when I'm petite, you've always had to kind of like fight to assert, you know, your place. And it just felt like to be in charge like that and have big men that I could just, you know, I could just direct, and it was like I didn't even have to lift a finger. Just Thompson is so powerful that she doesn't have to do any of that. And it was so interesting to me. And I loved it. It was like a really fun experience.
Well, Mina, I just thank you. You've made my day. To say that we love having you as part of this is an understatement. I think when your casting announcement came out and your face appeared in the announcement, I think the community were just like, oh wow, Gala really is going into film proper, because you're a name that people know and love, and I'm so excited that they're going to get to see a completely different side, the dark side. So thank you for joining us.
It's a testament to David and really journey. Like his amazing vision and the people that he thought of. You know, there's so much great talent in front of and behind the camera. I mean, I became close with so many of our crew. Really, really wonderful people.
Well, we're all rooting for you. The whole community's here, and we'll follow you and support you all the way. And we're so excited to see, you know, how post-production's going, and obviously for the launch as well. So don't be a stranger. We are beyond delighted that you've joined forces with David. I think it's just a power team through and through. The way you've spoken about him, the way he spoke about you, and the way both of you spoke about the production and the crew, I think it's fair to say we're all absolutely on the edge of our seats waiting for this thing to hit our screens. So thank you for being part of this, and we hope to see you soon. We hope that you'll carry on, and we're all here and we'll all support, and we're obviously going to support any project you do from here on out if we didn't already. So thank you so much for your time.
Thank you for having me. I really appreciate it.